Everyone's coming in here to my therapy room saying that they're worrying a lot at the moment. So here are my 3 favorite tips for dealing with worrying. Because worrying is the most unproductive use of our time. So here are 3 ways to short circuit it and get on with something else like enjoying yourself or sleeping. So this is a technique called havening. And what you're going to do is cross your arms to your shoulders and then gently and slowly stroke down your arms. The idea is that this is a really soothing sensation for your body. If you don't like the idea of being stroked, if it doesn't feel good for you, you'll know pretty quickly, you could gently pat, you could gently squeeze and release, gently, or you could just simply hold. So we're doing the movement, and as we do the movement, we're noticing the sensations in our arms and in our hands. So noticing the sensation of the texture of your jumper or your skin, and noticing the warmth between your hands and your arms, noticing the pressure of being touched. And hopefully all of this will be quite soothing to your nervous system. So the word havening comes from the saying safe haven, which means a safe place. So we're making your body a safe place. And ideally, we pair this with a statement, which is something like, even though, and then you list your problem, then you say, I know that, and that's when you list something positive. So for example, for me, even though I'm worried about using technology on the Zoom call, I know that I've done it before. I know I can do this. So even though I'm freaking out about using technology on Zoom, I know that I've got this. And you just repeat it a few times until you start to feel calmer. Here's how to contain a worry. Now, a lot of people tell me that at nighttime, they're trying to drop off to sleep and they keep thinking about this worry over and over and over again. And the thing about worrying is it's completely unproductive. You can't do anything about it at that time. So this technique is a way of just kind of saying to your brain, you know what, I'm going to suspend that thought until the next day when I can actually do something about it. So what I like to do is actually write down my worry. So here's my worry. I've written it down. And what I'm going to do is put it in a safe place until tomorrow morning when I can actually do something about it. So I might put it in a box beside my bed. I might put it under a book, or I might give it to my partner to hold on for me and say, can you hold this until I can do something about it tomorrow morning? And the idea is that it's safe. You don't have to do anything with it. You can now go to sleep. Some people like to do it physically. Some people like to imagine it. So for example, there's all sorts of things you could do. You could imagine that you are writing on a piece of paper and putting it in one of those lockable filing cabinets, and then locking the key and putting the key safely beside your bed. All sorts of things. You could imagine you're popping it in a safe and then shutting the safe, and you know the combination of the safe, or you've got the key to the safe. So the idea is that we are putting this worry down for the moment. We're deciding, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to deal with it tomorrow or whenever I actually have the resources to actually do something about it. I hope that helps. Okay, so this final technique, it's about being a detective and actually looking for the evidence behind your thoughts, behind your worry, and really testing the logic of that thought. Because what generally happens when we are worrying is that we lose all sense of agency, all sense of everything we've achieved before, everything we've done before, and we get very kind of narrow-minded in our thinking. We get catastrophic thinking, tunnel vision, black and white thinking. It's just how our brain works. So what we're going to do in this technique is actually bring in our amazing cognitive brain to really analyze these thoughts. So we're going to pull this thought to pieces. The first step is to write down your thought, your anxious thought. So I've written here the example of, I'm worried I'll mess up the technology on the Zoom webinar. And then before we even start analyzing it, we're going to just look at what your brain has come up with so far. Like, how likely does your brain think this to happen? Is it like a sure thing? It's like, oh my God, definitely it's going to happen. And if it does happen, how serious would it be? Like, I'm pretty sure my brain that night was going, oh my God, it's like 100% sure I'm definitely going to mess up the technology and no one's going to be able to hear me and it'll be awful. It'll be catastrophic. They'll think I'm useless. They'll drop off the call. But then we start to look for the evidence, both sides, like we're some kind of detective. We're looking evidence for the anxious thought, that it's true. And then we're going to look for the evidence against the anxious thought. Evidence that there is no truth in this thought, or maybe there's just a tiny bit. And then once you've done that, you've weighed up both sides. I want you to look at that table and then reassess the threat based on the evidence that you found above. How likely do you really think it is that this thing is going to happen? Is it like 20%? It's probably not 100% likely. And then even if it did happen, how serious would it be? Would it be catastrophic like you thought? Or would it be kind of like, maybe 20%? So what we're doing is we're using your wonderful prefrontal cortex, your thinking, logical brain, to assess this worry. So we're gonna take the emotion out of it and we're just gonna look at the actual evidence, the hard evidence. And usually that blows the thought out of the water. So I hope that helped you.